I'm sitting here with Stza from Leftover Crack, but I mean, I did no need no sugarcoating here. You were always anti-authority, anti-capitalist, anti-cops, and you are loud and wild. Is that right?
I'm loud and I'm wild when it's necessary, I guess. Like at the show, I'll try and be wild, but not like in everyday life. I'm not trying to be wild at like in the bookstore, in the library.
But on demonstration and stuff like that.
Yeah. You got to get wild sometimes to get your point across, right?
So we let's start with a simple question. What does crack rock steady mean to you today? Still a movement, or is it just a phrase that people put on a shirt?
Crack Rock City was just a different style of music that it was like ska punk, but just a little more frantic,
Yeah.
a little more political and more I guess more extreme,
Yeah.
we could say. Because there's rock steady ska, which is kind of very laid back,
Yeah. Yeah.
very mellow, and then there's ska punk. But then we were a little more than that. We were like playing metal and like death metal and stuff like that.
As we're putting on hardcore elements, street punk elements inside.
So we figured it was a little beyond that. So it was like the opposite of rocksteady. It was like crack rocksteady. It was more like instead of laid back, it was the opposite of laid back.
But it was also a while ago. It was also a movement, no?
I don't know. I don't know if it was a movement. Um, I mean, define movement like a political movement. You mean, or
Yeah, and a movement against authorities.
well, yeah, that's the political part of it. But I never thought of it as like as a movement that I never thought of it as something that would like unite people in a struggle. But I guess that by definition, I think if your band is going to be a crack rock steady band, then you should have leftist, political, or anarchist
Yeah.
lyrics. I think that would apply as the person that invented the style of music.
Yeah.
So sure, we can define it as that, but it's not definable necessarily. It's just lyrics in a song,
Yeah.
and then it's like, well, we'll just call our style of music that. So it was never meant to be any more important than any other style of music.
And it got now, like.
I don't know. It's hard to say.
You always been unapologetically anti-authority.
Unapologetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anti-authority. Is there a risk that messages like "kill cop" become slogans people wear without thinking, or is bluntness a part of the method?
Well, I believe that for progress, like political progress or like progress for movements of equality, to like be fulfilled or to come to fruition at all, you need extreme elements.
Yeah.
You like everything's a compromise
Yeah.
to some extent. If you don't have Malcolm X,
Yeah.
then you don't have the success of Martin Luther King Jr. You understand? So without Malcolm X and the militants
Yeah.
that he used to preach, you don't have the establishment scared, so that they move towards a compromise that does end up with some form of equality.
Yeah.
Amongst white and black people and whatnot, and civil rights,
Wouldn't female rights and stuff like.
civil rights wouldn't have been successful without people like Malcolm X.
Yeah.
So I feel like you need somebody to be preaching, a certain form of a pure form of revolution that is like, these are soldiers for rich people that come into anybody's house and murder them, and they don't get in trouble.
Yeah.
And there's no regulation of it, and therefore there should be a threat against them that if that's what they want to do for a living,
Yeah.
then other people are going to make it their business
Yeah.
to murder them. You want to murder innocent people, then people are going to target you. There's this thing where people in the news, in the media, in America, when a police officer is killed,
Yeah.
it's this great tragedy where it's
Yeah.
like this is like, it's unacceptable. This tragedy should never happen. But when people sign up to be a police officer, they know that job is dangerous.
Yeah.
They're taking a dangerous job that they might have a gun. they might get shot at, they might get killed. So isn't it more tragic that an innocent person gets murdered by these people than a person that signs up for that job gets murdered? I think it's much more tragic that they
Yeah.
kill people with impunity than they are shot at. Occasionally, that's not a tragedy to me. I mean, it's any time that you have like great political change, there's always like, unfortunately, a martyr that is the person that people rally around, and it should be every person. Every person that's murdered by the police, innocent person,
Yeah.
should be rallied around for the same effect. But
Mm.
usually it's like a perfect storm of the media actually has to take notice because the people are too fed up,
Yeah.
So, and that was in civil rights. That was Emmett Till is who was it was a young boy that was lynched and murdered for whistling at a white lady, supposedly.
Okay.
And it's like, this was like a young, like maybe 12, 13-year-old boy, and he was beaten up beyond recognition. He was like swollen, and when people saw pictures of his dead body, that was it. That was like the breaking point. That was for civil rights. There was like no more. People were done like being told what to do,
Yeah.
where to sit, and how to act, and that's when things changed.
Looking back, were there moments where the rage took over before the politics were fully formed?
I've definitely been angry about things that I didn't understand, and it took me time to process them. But I try not to write about them until I have a full enough understanding to know what I'm writing about.
Okay.
So, but it's tricky because it's we're talking about 100 songs,
Yeah.
and there's different levels of rage versus understanding,
Mm.
and but usually when something happens, you can feel in your gut when it's wrong. You know when something's wrong, and when people are being blamed for something unfairly, unjustly, and it's important to discuss it.
Yeah.
And whether I had all the facts at the time or not doesn't take away from the fact that it was an important discussion to have, and to bring out other points of view that weren't being discussed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't feel like I've been out of control from rage that discounted from anything I spoke about or sang about since or before. So
Are there causes, scenes, or protests you once stood with that you'd step away from today?
um I have trouble trusting organized protests in general because I feel like people like there's this hive mind mentality that people latch on to a like a movement, not fully understanding why
But just
they
doing
are
because it's cool to go.
because it's cool to go. And so what happens is there's a witch hunt against people like me that actually understand things.
Mhm.
And I don't think it's started by the people that are protesting. I think that there are government powers, people in power that don't want actual leaders, people that people look up to, like, involved. So, for instance, when George Floyd was murdered, before I even really understood what was going on, there were people on the internet
Mhm.
um making up stories about me, about how I'm a bad person, and I didn't really understand what was happening. I was like, "Well, who are these people? Like, why are these people choosing now to talk about me
Mhm.
in a way that isn't without any understanding of who I am and what my life has been like and what I've stood for
Mhm.
and who I am?" They just are just like taking rumors or making up stories
Mhm.
and just kind of taking me out of a position where I could say anything before I had a chance.
Yeah.
And that happened when George Floyd was murdered, and it continues to this day where people are trying to assassinate my character
Mhm.
and say that I am a hypocrite or something when it's not true. But what can you do? You can't you can't fight a bunch, people with a bunch of money that can control the internet and and say, they can pay for 1,000 people to say this one thing about you. It's just you alone saying, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really do anything. So it just makes you kind of have to sit back, and it's not good.
Humor is playing a big role in your music. Is that survival strategy or just natural state of chaos?
I think that it's important for people that are revolutionary to keep their sense of humor. It's important for people to celebrate the small victories
Yeah.
and to have a I think when people are very serious and militant about their politics, it turns people off. Like, I want a movement that embraces, silliness and humor in the face of tragedy at the same time. These are very serious things we're dealing with, and if we only look at it as a serious thing and don't take a break and celebrate, like, the diversity of the movement, and like that people need my coping mechanism is humor a lot,
Yeah.
especially in the face of the darkest periods of my life, right? If I don't have my sense of humor, then I'd be gone. I would not be able to survive. So I think it's important for people to embrace that, and to, when people are very serious and 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 if you make a joke about something, the wrong thing, I think humor has a very prominent place in politics, and leftist politics and anarchist politics. And you can't say that you can't joke about certain things.
Mhm.
Everything is joked about, and some of the best ways of taking down, like, fascism
Mhm.
is through humor.
Yeah.
And if you can't joke about everything, then you can't joke about that. And if you can't joke about that, then it becomes it doesn't become an anarchist movement anymore. It becomes more of a fascist
Mhm.
movement when there are rules that you have to play by. And if you can't have humor, and you can't have celebration, and you can't have, like, relief and release, and, like, sometimes maybe people need to get drunk or something when there's a break,
Mhm.
then it becomes kind of like this revolution where the left turns all the way over to the right,
Mhm.
as in, as a circle goes around, and that's where, like, communism became fascist in a way,
Yeah.
and you have that. So I think to avoid that, you need to have humor.
Are there lyrics or moments in your discography that make you laugh now? Not because they are bad, but because they were so over the top that they almost became satire.
Yes. Quick answer. Yes is a yes. Yes, I don't. I hesitate to like go through it, but for sure, yeah. But you know what? It's also that that over the topness inspires people that are to the right of things. That it's the same thing. It's like having the Malcolm X versus the MLK versus the JFK versus, you have these all different spectrum of like politics, where to get things done, you really need to have over the top people preaching about killing cops
Yeah.
in order to get the police to understand how serious it is, that they can't just go around murdering people. Because there are people that will take inspiration from that, I hope, and take it seriously. And I'm not a violent person, so I'm not gonna go out killing cops probably.
Do you think the punk and hardcore scene today has gotten too self-retentional, more about gatekeeping than challenging real-world systems?
Yes. Yes, I do. I mean, as a victim of the gatekeeping, I feel like I'm not welcome at a lot of shows. And when I've had friends that have needed help, I've needed, like, people to speak out for them. I've realized that if I speak out for them, I'm not helping them,
Mm.
because people like to use me as a target.
Mhm.
So having a target speak out for a target, not necessarily a good thing. So I try to help where I can and keep quiet when necessary. And if I can help somebody quietly that needs my help, I will. So, but it's like, people, it's much easier to fight the people that you're in a room with
Mhm.
at a show with than it is to fight the real enemies, right?
Yeah.
So that's what people do. And it's unfortunate, and I've been singing about it ever since Choking Victim, and it's something that I take seriously, and these are the people that don't the gatekeepers usually don't have any sense of humor,
Mhm.
and they're the people that feel self-important by keeping me out of a show
Yeah.
when I'm not the problem. I'm there to help.
Where do you draw the line between the DIY and burnout, especially as expectations around being underground shift?
I don't. I'm burnt out. No, I don't know. I don't honestly. If I've been in, we've played big shows that were like where you're taken care of and everything, and like, and not that we're not taking care of you. We're always taking care of in Luxembourg, of
Yeah.
course. But just I think that there's a burnout that comes with people that are are very successful monetarily and everybody takes care of them. There's a burnout where it's like you have these people, these like everybody says yes to you, and you're always in a nice hotel and like making a lot of money. And there's a burnout where you're disconnected from reality.
Mhm.
And in order to enjoy these like the luxuries, you have to really suffer the hardships.
Mhm.
And if you're only enjoying the luxuries, you don't really remember. You forget where you come from, you forget the hardships, and you forget what it's like to, to struggle, to play to nobody, and you think people make you feel more important than you really are. And music's not that precious.
Mhm.
What we do isn't that precious. It might be important, but it's not precious. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but it's for some people. I mean, when you are playing it for crowd, for some people, your music is I think is um precious for them.
Great, but there's a difference between music being important and precious for somebody than it is for me to go out and say, like, say, I was here and we have no show today. The
Mhm.
show gets canceled. A lot of people would leave,
Mhm.
right? The band would leave, but if I have an acoustic guitar, I'll play songs for people for nothing, right? For free. Because a lot of people are thinking like, no, when I play a song, I get paid X amount of money for a song. And I've been in bands with people like this, and it's not a way to live. It's like you should be able to it takes no effort for me to play a song when our show's canceled. The effort is jumping around for an hour and a half in 100 degrees,
Yeah.
and that's a lot of effort, but it's like worth it, But I can also play 5 songs for a crowd of 20 people that came to the show that can't get in.
You give a fuck about if you are playing it before 1,000 people or if you play before 20 people.
It's almost like I give more of a fuck about the 20 people.
Yeah.
Because I have more to prove to 20 people than to 20,000. And also, it's like when there's 20,000 people at a show and they're all there and they all think it's important, they feed off each other's energy.
Yeah.
They don't need us to even be good. We just played at Hellfest. I was like, it was sweltering. We were playing. I could hardly jump or sing. I was like felt nauseous, but people said we had more energy than most of the bands. And I watched a lot of the bands and they're just walking around not even moving. And it's like nighttime and it's cool out. And it's like I feel like our like I don't know. I just feel like it's important to give more when less is expected.
Yeah.
That makes sense because that proves that you are dedicated,
Mhm.
I think. And it proves to those 20 people that you care.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to prove to 20,000 people. 20,000 people care about your show. You don't need to prove that you care.
Yeah.
They care. But 20 people show up, you got like some splaining to do. You gotta like, move for if they're gonna, buy a shirt, then you better be good, And if you want people to show up next time, it's important. I think it's really important to not I've been in bands with people, we play to 1,000 people and then we play a show and there's like 50 people and so they don't play as well.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, it's more important to play well now. And it makes me mad at those people. I'm like, at least play as well as you did last night.
Yeah.
At least. Or play a little bit better because these people deserve it. They came out when nobody else. It's not like it's not an event when there's only 50 people there. It's an event when there's 500 people there. So make it an event. Make it worthwhile for them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
What? This is not a question I prepared, but you said you were on Hellfest. You watched a lot of bands.
Yeah.
Which one was the favorite one you saw at Hellfest this year?
Death Clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Metalocalypse, Death Clock. I never got to see them, and they just mean a lot to me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good bands though. It was really cool watching the Scorpions because I feel like the singer, he's he reminds me of the last president of the United States. What's his name? I can't remember his name. The senile guy.
Oh, Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
Yeah.
He very much looks like Joe Biden.
Oh yeah.
He's out there, he's singing, and you can tell he's probably like the same age, probably 80, and he doesn't really know where he is, but he's singing, but he's walking away, and he's like, you kind of feel a bit like we might not get to see the Scorpions again.
Yeah.
This might be the last time, so it's important, and it meant a lot to see them, you know. And Judas Priest, who's like not like that, like Rob Halford, probably close to, he's probably in his 70s.
Yeah.
Still fucking amazing. Still has all his wits about him, you know?
Mm.
10 years, who knows? You know, there's a lot of people in their 80s that we played with Fear, with Lee Ving.
Yeah.
He's like 100% present.
Yeah.
But like, you know, you see people like, you know, all these metal bands party. And it like, you know, like Ozzy Osbourne's a good example, but like they still like, they give their performance, you know?
Yeah.
And it means a lot. I think it means more when like you can see that they're not going to last that much longer. So it's like, I'm getting choked up.
How do you feel about kids discovering punk through TikTok or curated Spotify playlists? Is that killing the soul or just a new way of a mixtape?
I don't know. I don't have TikTok.
Yeah.
Or Spotify. I think that
Or Instagram, we can take
Instagram. Yeah, Instagram. I don't know. I mean, I have Instagram, so I know that one. I feel like the problem with all these the internet is the death of what people want, and it becoming an algorithm.
Yeah, the algorithm tells you what to like.
The algorithm, and people are making content for the algorithm, not and the algorithm isn't what people want, and you're not connecting with your fans. You're connecting to an algorithm that's connecting to more people that don't care.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you're more popular, but you're not connecting with the people that care about what you have to say. So I don't know. I kind of, you know, I mean, I've had a rough time with the internet. So personally, I would love a electromagnetic pulse to wipe out the internet, and just let's go back to, you know, vinyl and CDs and whatever analog music.
Yeah.
That would be fine by me. Yeah, tapes, cassettes. We're trying to do all that with our new record label. That hopefully we'll have a record this year. I don't know. It's hard to stay inspired. Yeah, but have all the songs. I've had them for 10 years. A lot of them are from our last record.
Yeah.
With our lineup with like Alec Bailey, and it was rest in peace, and Brad Logan, and our other drummers, Donnie Morris. But and we have a new lineup mainly, but the record's gonna be a mix of both. Like we just put out a 7-inch.
Yeah.
One side is pretty much our old lineup, and the other side is the new lineup.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that was the interview. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, it was a roller coaster of highs and lows. I almost like cried. It was cool. I laughed, I cried. Yeah, I would do it again.
And I would give you the mic, and the last words belong to you.
Okay. Oh boy, this is a heavy one. Away from life. Very important to not take life too seriously, and to take a break, and enjoy the little victories, and enjoy your leisure and your free time and the freedom that you do have. And you know, fuck the gatekeepers. Just like keep on keeping on. I'm hoping that if I keep on keeping on, that these people will tend to fade away, and my message and my persona and who I've been true to myself and not a hypocrite will shine through, hopefully. And if it doesn't, the songs still are out there, and maybe don't judge the music by the artist. I'm okay with that. I find that completely impossible, but If you don't, then enjoy, because those songs were written for a future revolution, which has been this last 10 years has been the revolution that I thought wouldn't come for another 100. So,
Yeah.
Viva la revolution, right?
Thank you, man.
Thank you. Cheers.